Okay.
So guarantees both party, no problem. But here in Lisbon or in Porto, you will get party. That's no problem. No problem. What Portuguese like to do and are really good doing, it's partying.
Well, that's me sold.
Well, that's 2 tickets sold.
And I will keep John with me all time so that he won't get lost.
Daniel, don't make promises you cannot keep, okay? Because nobody can do that. Nobody.
Yeah, that's true. In Lithuania, I saw that it's not easy to keep John with us.
Welcome back to the Sports Dentistry Podcast. The summer is over, Umar. The summer is over. The weather the last few days has just shook it in, and also how dark it is in the mornings when I'm getting up. The summer is over.
Yeah, that's like putting a dagger through my heart. I do suffer from seasonal affective disorder, but it's actually been, the weather's not been the worst. I mean, there has been a bit of rain, but it's still being relatively warm here. And what I mean by warm is like late teens. At this time of year, it's actually still not too bad. September tends to be okay, but like you said, yeah, dark in the mornings, which is not ideal. However, that just means that we're getting a step closer to something very exciting next week.
Yeah, but I'd also say 5 degrees in Edinburgh is probably warm for Edinburgh.
Yeah.
It's always the coldest place I've ever been.
You'd be surprised how many people would be walking about with tops off 5 degrees Celsius. You know, it's not uncommon to be seen.
Yeah, sun's out, guns out type of weather.
That's it. But look, September, October, it's quite a nice season. Autumn is quite a nice season when the leaves start to fall and the colours kind of go a bit red and a bit orange in the leaves. Something magical about it. So let's not be too pessimistic at the minute. I think there's still a bit of life left yet, and then we can enjoy the autumn, enjoy the next few weeks where we've got some really exciting things happening, and then we can get depressed properly when the depth of winter comes.
So with the rain then and the excitement of next week, us having the UK Sports Dentistry Conference in Manchester for our second one, and we decided to go with the cricket. What happens if it rains?
If it rains, there's no play. So the reason for that is because the ball obviously then gets wet and then becomes difficult to hold. And then being on the outfield is difficult because players can get more likely to get injured as well. So nobody wants to be playing with that wet ball that you can't hold and being on the outfield when it's slippery wet like that because you break your fingers. But that does.
So it's the ball that dictates. Is that why a lot of the time?
It's not just the ball. It could be the outfield could be wet. The run up could be wet. So the players, when they're running into bowl, if it's too wet, then they could be slippy. So when their feet land, they could slip as well. But then you can use sawdust. There's lots of stuff that you can use. But yeah, that's the main reason. It's because you can play through drizzle, but then when it starts to kind of heavily rain, then the pitch gets wet, can affect the pitch quite badly, and then the ball obviously gets wet, and then the likelihood of players getting injured and slipping and stuff like that is quite, even though you're wearing spikes and stuff too. So I suppose it's not like rugby where it is. Rugby's a winter sport as well, isn't it? So you're kind of used to playing with the wet ball, and rugby ball isn't like rock solid like a cricket ball is, or like a hockey ball. I suppose the hockey can play in the wet because you're not really you're not handling it, are you? You're hitting it with your hockey stick, whereas cricket's completely different, where you're playing with your hands mainly, and obviously the bat or the will hits the ball, but the fielders and that, you got to think about that because that's where injuries can happen with kind of wet balls because they get a lot heavier as well, and you can't hold them, so it's a bit of a nightmare. But when you go, I mean, that's the whole thing about doing the T20 next week in Manchester, the evening game. You know, Manchester is quite renowned for being quite wet, but we just have to keep our fingers crossed because we put a lot of effort into the second competition. So hopefully it all comes together on the day, just like last time, and we can enjoy ourselves.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll be able to find a backup plan if the cricket doesn't go ahead.
There's always a backup plan. There's always a backup plan. You know what I mean? So no, but it should be good though. I mean, like say the days come together quite nicely. The sponsors have come together quite nicely. The speakers as well. It just looks like to be an exciting days. This time next week we will be in Manchester.
Yeah, that's good. I'm looking forward to it as the excitement builds up. There's quite a lot going on with different conferences as well. We've spoke about it before. The Italian conference is running next week at the same time. But I've seen 2 different conferences being released there over the last few days.
Okay.
Got one in Istanbul in Turkey, Turkish Sports Dentistry Association.
Do you mean Istanbul?
Istanbul, yeah. Is that how you say it? Istanbul? Where the famous Liverpool win of 2005 in the Champions League happened.
Absolutely. All right, so they announced their conference? I've not seen that actually.
They have a conference, yeah. It's on. No, it's not a lie. The date is the same time as Cape Town.
Yeah,
it's the Thursday and the Friday of Cape Town, which is another conference that we've spoke about. The first ever South African Sports Dentistry Association conference on the 5th of December. And then the Georgian Sports Dentistry Association are having a conference on the 13th. So that's, I think, the 13th of December, the weekend after Cape Town.
Which one was that, John? Sorry?
The Georgian.
Oh, nice.
Georgia.
Yeah.
Georgia.
Yeah, very good.
Tbilisi, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, look, I think there's a lot of conference coming out, which is great to see, and there's some amazing places to visit there now, right? Istanbul is meant to be incredible. Italy would obviously be somewhere nice to go, and we're going to be a bit biased and say Cape Town as well, because we've helped the guys out there, but we can kind of help sort that out. But we'll hopefully get the link ready for that, because if people have never been to South Africa and they've never experienced the Rainbow Nation, it is a magnificent place to go and visit. Magnificent.
Also, if you like wine, because I've been promised a winery. The conference dinner could possibly be at a winery, so that should be a nice wee add-on.
Yeah, and the world famous Stellenbosch region. So yeah, there's a lot of exciting things coming over the next few months, and obviously in the mixer and all that is Dusseldorf, where pretty much every single person we've spoken to in this podcast is going to. So that will be a pretty epic affair with many colleagues, friends from all over the world really going to, it looks like.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely looking forward to Dusseldorf. It's going to be a good one. It is. So September, a lot going on in September. We've got Manchester. We've also got the Steelers coming to Dublin. We spoke about it earlier on the year. Starting to build up. The Steelers shop is opening tomorrow in Dublin. It's going to be our whole of the NFL season. So it's really starting to build a bit of fever going on. They have the American college football game. The college football game. So they had it a couple of weeks ago, and it's got bigger and bigger every year. With John Cena he was in town as well for the WWE, so Dublin was buzzing for it, and it's going to be absolutely buzzing whenever Steelers Vikings rock up, and then you'll have all the London games as well. So the sports really back. They've got the soccer's back. The rugby's going to be back in a few weeks.
Yeah,
that's the good thing about once we hit autumn is like a lot of the sports that we follow all start to kick off again.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, there's obviously kind of all sorts of different sports all year round, but the ones that we're kind of heavily involved with kind of the work that we do with regards to the industry is the rugby and the hockey and the ice hockey side of things. So it will start kicking off, and the Scottish contingent have got the itinerary sorted for who's covering what games as well. So that's already come out, and there'll be more games. They're always announcing games, and if teams are getting through to the next stages of competitions, then you have to make yourself available. But yeah, going back to what you're talking about there with the American football, they're also taking it to Europe as well. I'm pretty sure they're not playing in
Madrid
and so in
Germany as well.
Yeah,
maybe.
That's great. There was talking when I was listening to the radio the other day. They were talking about potentially doing that with soccer and taking some Premier League games abroad and playing some Premier League fixtures in places like America or Canada or Europe. But there's been a big uproar from fans because then what happens with people who have got season tickets? Do they get cheap flights? Do they get cheap accommodation? I wonder how it works with the Americans as well, because they're playing these games in.
Well, with American football, what they did was, and it must have been thought ahead, was they changed their season from 16 games to 17 games, which means every other year you'll get 9 home games. So if you're a season ticket holder, you'll still get your 8 home games at home in your home stadium. And then you'll have that option, the team will have that option of that extra 9th game, home game, and to play that abroad. So that's what the Steelers are doing. They're using their 9th home game this year to play it in Dublin. But it means also then the Steelers season ticket holders will still get their 8 home games the same way they would have got 8 home games last year.
But did they give the fans like a rate that they can come to Dublin and they can, come and watch them play, or is it more tailored for people who maybe don't get the opportunity to go to America to watch it, so they're actually looking at a different sort of crowd?
Yeah, a little bit of both, I think. I think from the Steelers' point of view, there's a big Irish connection with the owners being originally from Ireland. They're actually from the town that I went to school in, which hence how I became a fan. So I think this is a big sort of opportunity for a lot of Steelers fans that have an Irish connection to travel to Ireland and experience a game in Ireland. But you've also got there's a lot of build up and a lot more popularity American football's getting in Ireland, so they're tapping into that audience as well, similar to the way the Jags have tapped into the London audience. So there's two ways of looking at it. Don't think when it comes to the NFL, if you've been around the NFL, they don't tend to do cheap deals.
Yeah.
It's not on their commercial profile. It's definitely not. So I'm not sure if the Steelers fans are getting any sort of preferential rates for flights and accommodation, because I've looked at a few of the packages and they're pretty steep.
I mean, the NFL is a multi-billion-dollar industry, isn't it? So it's quite hard to compete with all that. And I saw recently that one of I don't know which team it was, but they just had their home dressing room done up, and it looked like something out of this world. It just looked incredible. Each player has their own individual kind of massive, it's almost like a bedroom for each cubicle. Like they've got like a bed and they've got TVs and for each individual player. And I know NFL teams are got how many players on each team?
Oh, yeah.
40 or something?
Or more, 53. I think it's a 53 game day roster, maybe, yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. And then all the support staff and all, it must be a busy change room.
The amount of money that's floating about in NFL is absolutely crazy. But like you said, they've made it into a really well-run business, and with a big company like Invisalign getting involved and having all the players supporting, getting the teeth straightened by Invisalign and doing the promotion on that and the sponsorship on that is just incredible, isn't it?
It's brilliant marketing, isn't it? Yeah, even the Invisalign have been very good at marketing, because we see it ourselves in practices when people want to get clear aligner therapy. They come in asking for Invisalign. They don't really know. They think Invisalign's a type of treatment.
Yeah.
It's not just a brand, as clear. So from a marketing point of view and from a brand awareness point of view, and Invisalign have been fantastic. And even just back to the Happy Gilmore. Remember Happy Gilmore, the second one, they talked about, you could have given me some Invisalign when he's talking about a statue.
Yeah.
So that's how popular of a brand have been able to raise awareness. So the fact that they're in the NFL just shows you the levels. So I reached out to the Steelers to see if I could look after the players when they're in Dublin. Have I told you this? I don't think.
No, I didn't tell you this, no.
So I've got friendly with one of their commercial guys through commercial guys that I had worked with in Dublin with different teams. And I went over to watch the Steelers play last year in early December. And I sent him a message and I was like, do you know, when the teams are over in Dublin, I'm happy to look after them if there's any issues and all. And he can tag me in or whatever. And he goes, I'm not sure who's looking after that, whether it's the NFL or the Steelers. But you'd be best trying to get involved with like Steelers Ireland. So they're trying to build up like a profile in Ireland. So they have this Steelers Ireland where they're running youth football games and things like that. I was like, yeah, look, I can look at maybe fitting mouth guards and things like that. So he came back with a really nice offer. He says, yeah, we can do something. Probably the lowest it'll probably cost you about £75,000 to be associated with the Steelers brand. And I just said just to be associated with the Steelers Ireland brand.
Wow.
And I was offering my services, and they were like, well, you'll have to pay to actually offer your services.
That is mental.
So I just sent them a thumbs up back. I just don't know how to reply. I was like,
Did he give you a response to that? No.
So maybe catch up with him when he's over in a few weeks.
Yeah, fair enough.
just different levels altogether.
At least you put your hat in the ring, so in case anything does happen, then you never know. They might be on the phone call to you, mate.
Yeah, I never know. I'm planning to go to the game and enjoy myself, so hopefully, hopefully not. It's going to be a great spectacle. They do like entertainment, so it's going to be really interesting how to turn Croke Park into an NFL game.
Yeah, no, is this the first time that they're having an NFL game in Croke Park?
A competitive game. I think they had a
Competitive game.
preseason friendly, before maybe late 90s.
Yeah.
This is the first competitive in-season
Yeah.
NFL game.
I'd imagine you'd get quite a lot of Americans and Canadians there because, they love their Irish roots. So it wouldn't be surprised if you did get a decent turnout of our friends from North America.
Yeah, I'd say there's going to be a big traveling crowd. Definitely will be a big traveling crowd. So we were talking there about all the sports dentistry conferences that are happening all over Europe. And our next guest is in a location where there's a lot of rumours with, where the next European Association for Sports Dentistry conference after Dusseldorf may be. It'd be quite a nice place to visit for a conference as well.
I don't want you getting my hopes up because the country and the cities that we're talking about are some of the best cities I've ever been to, not just because of their culture and their history, but the people there are so friendly. The food is beautiful. They're famous for their pasta del natas, which are little kind of custard tarts. If that pasta del nata doesn't give it away which country we're talking about, then you need to tune in because our friend Daniel from Portugal, we reached out to him and he's part of the trio of Diego and Andre who have helped set up the Post Graduate Sports Dentistry program in Lisbon or just outside Lisbon. So we were quite interested to see how they managed to form that organization, what sort of difficulties did they have, how many delegates have they got on the course, what's on the course and what they see the future going. So it was really good to have Daniel offering to come on. So I think the conversation should be quite good because I think there'll be other countries who have or who are thinking about trying to get into a local hospital or a local dental school and to run a sports dentistry program like we do at UCL here, or hopefully going to rerun again here at UCL, and just get some inspiration from that because there definitely is an avenue to go down and an opportunity there, but it is difficult. And it'll be interesting to hear Daniel's thoughts, how they managed to kind of get it to where it is now and actually take off.
Yeah, they're very, very proactive, the three lads. So it's going to be interesting to hear from Daniel. They're always about, since we met them first a couple of years ago in Edinburgh, they've been very proactive with promoting sports dentistry, and they do attend a lot of the European-based conferences. So I've seen them in Vilnius in Lithuania. On the first day, they looked a little bit tired. And I was asking them, why are you guys so tired? And they were complaining that there was too much daylight. So I'm not sure what's going on in Portugal where they don't have all this daylight, but apparently it was too late in the morning and they weren't able to get enough sleep. I'm not sure if I'm buying that excuse, but it is one I might just keep in my pocket in case I never ever need to use it.
I was going to say you saw them, but did they see you?
yeah, that's the question.
Yeah, no, I have seen they've been quite active and they've been going to quite a few conferences, and I see that Andre's been asked to speak at the Indian one as well. So that, I mean, it's great to see these guys and girls as well who are kind of making waves and getting themselves out there and speaking on subjects and topics that they're quite passionate about. So I think it's only right that we now venture over to Portugal and ask Daniel to give his views, because we've not had anybody on from there yet. And like you said, if the EA4SD are even contemplating about taking it to Dusseldorf, then I plea with Thanos to say, please make it happen.
And just on Thanos is getting married this week. So I want to wish Thanos all the best for his big day.
So I hear. Yep, Thanos, good luck, my friend. Hope all goes well. And I'm sure we hear about it when we see you next.
We'll toast a drink in Dusseldorf.
I need to get his kilt as well, actually. I need to get his kilt organised. He did promise me he would wear his kilt, so yeah, I need to get on to that.
He did. And Mike Slizher from Canada had a nice photo of his kilt out at the Canadian Dental Association conference last week. So we'll need to get Danos on to a kilt for Dusseldorf as well.
Yeah.
He did make that promise.
Yeah, definitely.
So we'll head on to our guest for this podcast. So looking forward to this chat with Daniel. So let's go. Hey everyone, save the date. The UK Sports Dentistry Association's second conference is happening on Friday the 12th of September at the Voco Hotel in Manchester. And guess what? It's not just about teeth. We're combining cutting-edge sports dentistry talks with the thrill of live sport. Right after the conference, we're heading to Emirates Old Trafford for the England versus South Africa T20 International. Expect a day packed with expert speakers, athlete Q&A sessions, and plenty of time for networking with dentists, sports pros, and athletes alike. Whether you're in dentistry or passionate about sport, this is a day you won't want to miss. Tickets are live now at sportsdentistryuk.com. Grab yours and join us for an unforgettable day. It gives me great pleasure to welcome onto the Sports Dentistry podcast this week, Daniel Ferreira. Is it Ferrari like the car?
No,
Boom, boom.
it's Ferreira.
No. Ferreira. Right.
I would love to be Ferrari, but no.
So, Daniel, you're based in Portugal. You're one of the Portugal trio that usually bumps around the conferences. So, it's been a pleasure to get to know you over the last few years since we met in Edinburgh. So, for any of our listeners that haven't got to know you yet, just give us a bit of a background into your story and how you got into sports dentistry.
Okay. So I was lucky that my father always pushed me and my brothers to do sports. So I started very little swimming. And then when I got older, I played rugby. That was something that I really enjoyed. And I played it for almost 13 years in a team in my village. It is Cascais. And I was able to play also for the national team. So until I was 21. After that, in Portugal, rugby is amateur. So at the time, it was not something that I could consider to go professional. So, and my parents always wanted us to study. So I tried to go to university to take physiotherapy because I wanted to be connected to sports. And I thought physiotherapy would be something that would allow me to do that. I didn't get the grades to get in, but at my university, you could change the course. So I got in dental as a dental technician to the course of dental technician, but I liked it so much that I stayed there and I did the whole course, the 4 years. And that's how I started in this area of the dental technician part. One thing that led me to when I finished the course of dental technician, I was able to go to Brazil to work for a couple of months and to develop my technician part as a technical orthodontist. I was in Baru where I learned quite a lot. And then I came back to Portugal and started dental lab at the time, only working with orthodontics, mouth guard splits. And around 2010, I did sports, but only amateur, like boxing, swimming sometimes. But my older brother also did sports, boxing, jiu-jitsu and everything. And we had a problem with the mouth guards. And my area started to grow of expertise to building mouth guards that were able for the players to use them and to breathe with them, to make them fit and not always coming out, try to make the mouth guards even better than they were. And in 2012, I created a brand that is called She's X Impact of mouth guards that we developed all over the years in these almost 15 years doing them. We try to develop at the time was something so that could protect better the athletes with drawings, logos, designs and everything. But over the years and through this time, I understood that they could be also directed to other parts of the athletes, not just the protection, but to not diminish the performance. And in 2018, André Judis, one of my colleagues that always goes with me to the conference, started the sports dentistry appointment in our university, Egas Moniz School of Health and Science. And we talked. I was already a teacher there, and I wanted my students to learn about mouth guards, about sports and prevention, because at the time we didn't did mouth guards in the university. So we started in 2018 with Andre, trying to build this project. And I think it was 2 years ago in Edinburgh when we met that we understood that it wasn't just us. There was a community, a bigger community with many years of experience that already had done the steps that we did, and that we weren't that wrong. When I say that wrong is why? Because many of our colleagues thought we were crazy when we talk about sports dentistry. So basically, we started to increase our appointments, and so far it's been quite a ride. This year we are doing the post graduation of sports dentistry. It started in September, if I'm not wrong. Our first guest was Peter Fine, and we have 8 students, and it's going quite well. I think it was in the last week of July, I think, we almost saw 125 athletes to prepare them for the season. And more than a half were from football teams of the first Portuguese division. So we are growing steadily, and we are seeing that there's much more to do and much more to grow. And you guys are part of that also, because now we know it's not just one thing in Portugal, it's around the world, that it's started many years ago, but we didn't knew.
Yes, that's really interesting how that's developed. It's something similar that developed in UCL with Peter Fine, how he brought sports dentistry into UCL and developed it into postgrad. How have you noticed that develop in the university itself? Have you found it easy to develop it into a postgraduate course? Was there some convincing with the university, or was there that much demand and interest from students that it was easy then to show the university how to develop the sports dentistry course?
So easy it wasn't, but in 2015, what happened with me was that I already worked as a teacher in the university, but as a dental technician. But I used to help other universities doing studies for the graduates, the final theses about mouth guards. Normally, I worked with the University of Porto, and that helped me to go to a path that I started to enjoy. It was in investigation to help people and to help to see develop new studies about mouth guards. And that was when I started to see that mouth guards were not just for the protection. I think the really mind opening was when we went to Edinburgh, because there we saw a community that already was working for years and years in this development of sports dentistry. And we understood that we were not alone, that there were already post-grad in other countries, that there were people that really wanted to learn more. And in 2015, I also started the course of dentist. Why? Because I wanted to be integrated in the medical teams also, and so that I could also help even more in the investigation. But in Edinburgh, we understood that we could get help from more experienced people, and that could facilitate our how do you say it, our introduction in our university. Because one thing, I don't know if it's all over the world, but one thing that we see still in our university, it's that sports dentistry is not integrated in the formation of the dentists. Something that we are trying to put very hard, because I think it's something that should be taught. But unfortunately, it still isn't. The postgraduates took us, I think, more or less 4 years to build, to try and convince the university that it should be done, because of the process and because of the things that we need to be certificated. We still aren't recognizing Portugal as a specialty, sports dentistry. We are also working on that in the same amount of time as the postgraduate course. And one thing that we managed to do was do a postgraduate course that, if something in Portugal change and you can be sports dentist specialist, they already will be with the formation done, and will be much easier for them to get the degree as specialists in the sports dentistry. So it hasn't been easy. It's very hard work, very work disconstructing the minds that already exist, and to see that it's really important to integrate sports dentistry in dentistry and in the medical community all around.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think there's a lot of similarities from what you're saying, Daniel, there in Portugal than what's happening with us in the UK. I think being able to integrate sports dentistry into a module into the undergraduate program, there's definitely room for that. But until we continue to grow and make waves with the sports medics and they start to understand just how important we are as part of their team, it will then maybe take a university to take a punt on it to say, actually, we're going to then integrate it into part of our curriculum. So the postgraduate courses that we have, certainly in the UK, that you've got there in Portugal, is somewhere for people to, if they have got an interest in it, to get involved. Can we just touch on kind of what the program involves then with universities? So you obviously created this program this year, and you said Peter Fine was there as part of the initial, I suppose, celebration of the course going live. So what do your delegates, what do your students look to expect from that course?
So what we tried to do, and this I have to say that André Judis was one of the mentors, is that we try to integrate not just sports dentistry, but many other medical colleagues like physiotherapists, sports medics, and we are trying to create a course that will touch many areas. This month we'll have, it's a dentist talking about TNG problems, occlusion. That is André Moniz Almeida. It's a well-known doctor here in Portugal that is specialized in this area. And we will have 2 days full on that subject. But last month we had our physiotherapist, our colleague, Luciano Maia, that I hope will go to Düsseldorf with us, talking about what physiotherapists can do. He helps us evaluate posture. He helps evaluate bites. He helps with many other evaluations about electromyography. And this is what we try to do with the course. Bring people from different areas, from different experience, with the knowledge that can help dentists perceive better what he can do with an athlete. Not alone, of course, but integrate these different disciplines in this effort. So what we are trying to do is to try and bring many people in many different areas, so that the students can have an overall experience and knowledge. Just one thing that happens last month, when we were doing this module, we were lucky that one team of football of the first Portuguese division, that is Estoril, had the evaluation, the functional evaluation, besides the dental evaluation that we were already going to do, in the exact day that the students of the postgrad were there. So they were able to experience in first hand what was to get really big team and evaluate from dental, occlusion, functional, many different areas. And that, I think, was the really, or is the really big experience that these students will have in this kind of courses that we are giving here in Portugal. And I know that there's others in other parts of the world, but what we want is to integrate this.
How have you been able to, so just for example, the screening, because this was something I was thinking when I was working with Peter for developing our masters, we're trying to get people hands-on experience from screening teams. That in that scenario, was the team attending the university for their screening, or were you going off-site for the screening? And how have you been able to build that relationship?
Yeah, that's the the difficult part, because there's always two sides of this experience. We know it's very difficult for these big teams to move the players to a clinic or a university clinic. But me and Andre always said that it should be in the clinic. Even if it's a university or a private clinic, it doesn't matter. For us, having the every single equipment that we need to evaluate the players in the right conditions is much easier to have them in the clinic. Of course, it's not always possible, but so far we are being lucky, because in these last years we have grown in experience, in the knowledge, and in people knowing the work that we have done. So we are getting the teams to come to the university. So far it has gone well, but we know that we have to also go to the clubs. It's not just in the university. Of course, it's easier because we have all the equipments there, so it's easier to work in our environment. But we know that sometimes we have to go to the clubs to show them the difference that we can make them. One thing that we see, and we are very lucky because we are in Portugal, we work close with our colleagues from Brazil. In Brazil, we know that many football clubs of top division have already sports dentistry in the clubs. Here in Portugal, it's a little bit different. The clubs normally are associated with big companies of health, okay, that provides oral health, but they are not, or they don't have the knowledge. I think, I can be wrong, but I think they don't have the knowledge and the experience that our team already has, seeing an athletes with different structured professionals, like first oral evaluation, occlusion evaluation, see if they need splits, if they need orthodontics, everything. Then functional evaluation to see if they need other kind of attention. Then nutrition. We have psychology if they need also. So I think this is the big difference when you have, and here we are lucky because we work at the university. We also do in the private clinic, but in the university we have more ability because we have all these professionals and big groups to help the workflow be easier, let's say like this. So we would prefer all the athletes to meet us in the clinics, university or private, but we know that that's not always possible.
So the work that you're doing at the moment, is that majority sports dentistry? Are you doing kind of general restorative prevention dentistry as well? Or are you only dealing with athletes and doing sports related dentistry in your day to day?
No, we do everything. We do everything. Okay. Of course, our main focus is prevention, because we know what can happen to a player, a top player or a top athlete, if in the moment of the competition they have a pain in the mouth or some problem in the mouth, we are trying to give information to the teams, because it's not just the athletes. I think the structural problem is the structure. The top structure doesn't have the knowledge or doesn't know that many of the problems that happen during the season can be minimized in the preseason. And so what we try to do is we connect normally with the medical team. If we are lucky, the top structure understands our objective and invests in it, or it doesn't understand and they think it's just oral prevention. But no, we know that it's not just oral prevention. We know that we can help at least not diminish the performance, and also give the athletes tools to become even better. We see athletes with 15, 14 years old that have caries in 3-4 teeth, that have to do extraction, that already have so many stress that we see that they need splits from night guards with 14 years old. So when if they go to the top of the team or they become a top athlete, many times it can be already something that could be foreseen earlier if they had this kind of prevention and attention, let's say.
You mentioned there about the people at the top. So you're talking about the hierarchy in the club. Are the club paying or covering the costs of this, or how have you been able to develop that?
So we at university, we charge to do these evaluations. And why do we do this? We think it's something, if you give it for free, I think the structure, the athletes, they don't give the attention, or they don't give the value that it should be given. When you pay for something, you expect something also. So since we began and talking with Andre, we always said that this kind of appointment have to be charged. It's not possible to give a premium evaluation of anything if we don't charge something to these clubs. Of course, in the university, we have a possibility of doing some attention, okay? Because if you are talking of top clubs, top athletes that have paychecks bigger, or they have I don't know how to say it in English, but the budget of the team is bigger, they have more power to pay for those treatments that the athletes need. But we also work with amateur clubs, okay? Because we want to start with the young kids, because if we teach the young kids to get prevention, to see if they can have a mouth guard that fits and then can use it in football, boxing, rugby, wherever. If we start young, we know that when they get to the older age, they also will use it, or at least they will have the information and they can deal with that information. So we try to adjust the prices also. In the university, it's easier because when we are talking about children, and we do a lot of community work also. So it depends on the teams, on the sports. And here in Portugal, unfortunately, the top sport is football. It's where all the people love it. So it's easier to get maybe the big clubs to invest a little bit more. But so far, it's not been easy. We are lucky to have, I think, 2 first division teams. One of them is Casa Pia, that we have been working for 3 years now, and that we were this year in Madrid presenting the studies that we did and the difference that we make working with these teams, and what do they get working with sports dentists also.
And how do you get the amateur clubs to value the sports dentistry enough where they'll pay for it, or at that level do the players pay for it?
Well, that's a difficult question. I don't really know how do we make them see that is something that it should be normal. Okay. But one thing is for sure, we always should at least a year go to the doctor. It's even if it's a dentist, generalist, it doesn't matter, a doctor. So what we try to do is to try and show them, give them information, knowledge that if they do this, they will have more health. More health normally gives them better chance of performing better, gives them better chance of, if they want to pursue a career as an athlete, to be more prepared. So what we try to do is just to give information, to try and show them the difference that being healthy can do in their lives. But it's not easy.
And the football clubs that you're associated with, are you doing any pit side roles with them? Are you going to the matches and being there on match day and providing any kind of emergency care?
No, unfortunately, not yet. That is a very big wish that our team has. Diogo Brandão, that is one of our colleagues also involved in this project. He works also for a big group, and he was lucky to be the dentist in the Champions League, or the Feminist Champions League. But he wasn't present in the stadium. Okay. He was in the clinic, where if there was something happening, they would bring the athlete there. I think it's a first step. What we want is to be in the field so that we can, with our knowledge, help the medical team if it happens. And we are trying to see if there's something like this. But so far, as I know, or from my knowledge, I think there's no sports dentistry present in the field, in the big clubs.
And when you're talking about big clubs in Lisbon, it's Benfica, isn't it? Not the big club.
That's the biggest of them all.
That's
That's the biggest of them all, not just in Portugal. But yes, there are two clubs in Lisbon. Benfica is one of the top ones, and then you have Sporting. And we work with many athletes of them. But the thing is that they don't have sports dentists in the field, in the game. There's no sports dentistry there.
And which club do you support?
Benfica.
Benfica. You're showing me a card when we were in Vilnius. What was
Yeah.
that? Can you explain
That's
that? That's the story.
that's my membership card. I was lucky to be a fan of Benfica, and I've been a supporter for many years, and I have season tickets, and I try to go to all the matches. Sometimes it's not possible, but it's something that, if you ask me which club I would go, or if the club would let me go do sports dentistry, of course I would love to go to Benfica. Fortunately, I had some experience with the hockey team, where we did all the mouth guards. That wasn't with the university, it was in my private clinic, where we did all the mouth guards. And one thing that was funny was the women's team of hockey. They asked me to do, I think it was 9 mouth guards. If I'm not mistaken, 4 of them had already suffered traumas, and one of the players was taking the course of dentist. She was at the 4th grade, and some of them they didn't wear mouth guards. So it was something funny at the time when I got there and I started to do the molds and everything. And I asked, so what happened? Do you use it? Some of them didn't use it. And then when I had these players saying, no, I'm trying to be a dentist also. And I said, so why don't you try and help your colleagues? And I say, they are very difficult. Some of them say that they cannot talk with the mouth guards. They cannot breathe well. So what we try to do is to try and teach them why they should have. And we had athletes there that had already suffered some really bad traumas. So it was a nice experience, but of course we would like to be integrated in the club, not just football. We are talking here about football, but our goal is not just football. Our goal is to be in every sports: football, rugby, boxing, jiu-jitsu, every sports that needs a mouth guard. We would love to be there to help.
Yeah, and I think a lot of players that say that they can't wear a mouth guard or they find it difficult to breathe and it doesn't fit that well is because they're not wearing a custom made one. Because as we know, when we do make custom made mouth guards, we can tailor it to their specific needs depending on how far back they want it to go and how much the palate covers, etc., etc. So that's me. I just find that an excuse from some athletes who just don't want to wear it, and it's not until someone gets a trauma or a colleague gets a trauma and they see it firsthand, they think, actually, I need to actually wear one now. So all we can do is continue to give them the opportunity that if they want to have a mouth guard, we're talking about mouth guards, for example, at the moment, but have that opportunity to get one made, then we should encourage that, because before you know it, once you customize it, then the players see it and they can say, actually, I can wear it and it feels comfortable. That just comes with education, like you're saying there, and describing it to people that haven't had the opportunity to have something made. I just wanted to touch on something you talked about. You went to Brazil. So when you did your dental technician degree, you went to Brazil for a few months. What were you doing out there then? What made you go out there at that time?
One thing that made me go there to Brazil was that Brazil is a country that doesn't have the technology that we have here in Europe. So they try to solve things in a more practical way. Okay. We are lucky here in Europe that our technology, our materials are really good. And so it's easy for us to do a good work in orthodontics, in mouth guards, in every area. But in Brazil at the time, now I don't know how it is there now, but at the time they were very versatile, and I was doing orthodontics. So I learned many techniques, many ways of doing the same appliance, and in a cost effective way that I could bring to Portugal and use our materials, our machines to try and even improve those appliances. And that was something that I think the Brazilians, brothers like we call them, really are very different from us, because when they see the opportunity to do something better to help the teams, the players that they do, they integrate it really quickly, or they try it to maximize the experience and the knowledge. That's why many clubs in Brazil have the sports dentistry integrated in the clubs. They have a room just for that. So that's something that I learned in Brazil when I was working there, is that you can do quite a lot with quite few stuff, like just information, just explaining why you should wear a mouth guard, explaining that the mouth guard can be have different thicknesses, and it's not necessary to have mouth guards that don't allow you to breathe or to speak or everything. So that was something, it's a really good experience for me to see that you don't need much to affect or to impact. And it was really the start of something that I've bring into my life, just to start from the beginning, to see what we have, what we can make it better and simpler, because what athletes want is simplified mouth guards, better mouth guards that allow them to breathe, to speak, to talk, that doesn't follow from the mouth. So that was the big experience that I got there.
And then this was before you set up in 2012 the mouth guard to protect, is it?
Yes.
And you mentioned earlier how then you looked at the mouth guard and you made changes. What was it that you seen and you developed? So before that, was it just that you were making a lot of what was standardized? Maybe at undergrad, we were showing how to make a mouth guard, which was just a 4mm EVA sheet down over the model, using a vacuum former and trimmed. And I look back now at the mouth guard that I made at undergrad, and it's about 3 times the size of a mouth guard that I would make an athlete now. So was that something similar to your experience? Is that what changes did you make to the mouth guards you were making to develop in 2012 and forward? What were the big differences?
So I started playing with this in 2010 because my older brother, still did quite a lot of sports, combat sports, and I did rugby, and I couldn't wear the boiling bites. They were always falling. They let me. I don't know how to say it in English, but we almost threw up when putting that because they were big. Yeah, to gag. So what I started to do with my brother is to try and see what we could do so that the mouthguard wasn't to had a very big thicknesses, that it should not have much more, how do you say it, be more
Extended?
not standard, how do you say,
Thicker?
not thicker, but longer, because of
Longer.
it would just needed to go to the 60th, not to the 7th. So we started playing with that, and we realized that when we did the layers, we could make the adaptation of the mouthguard much better. So at the time I had a vacuum machine for vacuum, the ones that we used to do the X6, and we started with that. But then rapidly we understood that there were machines that could also do the occlusion. So we started playing with those machines to try and make the thickness of the occlusion between 2-3 millimeters most, to try and do mouth guards with 2 layers, 3 layers, 4 layers, depending on the materials, use hard layers to reduce the thickness. And that was the main focus. Then we realized that every athlete likes their to be individual. They like the drawings, they like the logos, they like the names, the colors. And the second part was trying to integrate that. Why this? Because we knew that one of the things that we could use to make kids of younger ages use the mouth guards was by making the mouth guards something personal. Because the others you have black ones, transparent ones, but when you individualize them to your tasting or to your what you want, they use it with pride. So those two things came. It was not just the thickness; it was the adaptation to the mouth, the anatomy in the mouth, the individualization, the customization of the mouth guards that we try to elaborate. After that, we realize that, okay, it's just a protection. We can do better, because if the mouth guard doesn't fall off my mouth, I can be focused 100% on the game, on what I'm doing. If a mouth guard doesn't lets me breathe better, I know that I will be performing better. It's something that's we know without any big studies, or that will help anyone perform better if it's less thick, if it keeps in the way. And I think it's one of the biggest things is the psychology of having the mouth guard that keeps in your mouth. It doesn't always fall. I think if a player or a sports combat athlete has a mouth guard that is always falling of the mouth, he cannot concentrate in the combat. So that's also something that we think it's really valuable in this kind of mouth guards. And that's why we started to experience and to perfect our mouth guards. Nowadays, we were able to create mouth guards with much less thickness, where one of our major problems is the football players don't use it. They don't like it because they cannot talk. They think it will, the performance won't be there because of the mouth guards. but we are getting more and more players to use it because we reduce the thickness of the mouth guards without compromising the protection. Using different materials, hard materials, soft materials, anatomic in the occlusion, try and evaluate if it's posturally, if it's not doing something wrong with the athlete. So what we tried to do was that start from the basics, just a normal mouth guard, try and see what we could do better in the thickness part, in the retention part, then in the individualization part, so that we could bring the people to wear the mouth guards, and then the other part that was the performance part, let's say like this.
And then recently, then with the developments in the mouth guards, with the tack and the instrumented mouth guards, you're doing a little bit of work as well in that area with the Portuguese team.
Yes, I think it was last year, the national team, our national rugby team, as you know, and Tomás Appleton was in Edinburgh. He's also a dentist, and he is the captain of the Portuguese team. And last year they asked us to go to the club because Tomás was over there training, and he had already done all the impressions for his teammates, but some of them were out playing in France and in other countries, so he couldn't do it because he had to be in the practice. So they called us to go there and do the impressions of a few players, to send them to do the IMGs for them. I think they were the mouth guards in a game in South Africa. I'm not sure. It was the first time that the Portuguese team used the mouth guards.
And have you noticed any other, apart from your work over the mouth guards of the years, apart from the concussion type of the tack, have you worked with any other types of tack that's maybe been in the mouth guard, or experimented with anything in the university?
No, and me personally, I would like to see the mouth guard being used not just for the concussion, because I think it's important, but I think we can do better. We can have more information coming out of mouth guards with the technology that has been developing. A few months ago, I saw, I think it was in UFC, I'm not sure, that there was already a mouth guard that could give us the cardiac rhythm, I think, of the athlete. So this is another one, but I would love to see if we could do something with the saliva, with the force of not of the impact, but if we use a mouth guard, if we gain more force in combat sports or rugby or in football, if we kick harder. So I think there's quite a lot of terrain to progress with the mouth guard. And why with the mouth guard? Because it's something that is attached to our structure, and that if it's done correctly, it doesn't move. So we can efficiently and assertively take information. Nowadays, we see concussion in the rugby, and it's been quite a development to see the implementation of this kind of technology. Now I think it has already a red light. When it gets positive, it will light the red light so that the referee and the medical team can see that it was impact. So we are getting better and better and trying to get more and more about this. But I think there's a big way still that the mouth guards can be used not just for the protection, but for the investigation, for science also. We are trying to see what we can do with this kind of technology, because the biggest problem is to integrate the chips and the batteries that this kind of technologies needs in the mouth guards without compromising the protection, without the athletes saying that it's too thickness, that that they cannot talk. So it's not easy. And one more thing is the information that we collect. Some of the athletes might think that can hurt them because they think if a club sees that information, it can be something against them and not in favor of them. I think that is something that we need to change the mind of the communities, that the data that we receive, it's for the protection of the individual. So it's for them. Of course, sometimes the athletes don't like it, or the clubs, but the thing is that we are trying to prevent really bad things from happening.
Yeah, and I think that's where Prevent need a bit of credit here, because they are improving the IMG kind of each year and how they're integrating it with the athletes and how they're bringing the new kind of designs. I know they've gone from it being white to now being clear to now having the red light. So that will pave the way for us as time goes on for people to start experimenting what can be done with the mouth guards and what sort of things we can look at. You touched on their saliva and force of impact and all that sort of stuff, and if it can improve, performance. So yeah, I mean, we've talked to a lot of people about mouth guards on the podcast, and a lot of different people have a lot of different things to say. So I think the beauty is that people from all over the world are doing so many different things, and over time we'll be able to see what's working, what's not working, and hopefully work together and bounce ideas off each other and see what happens from there. Then you're in a unique position where you live in one of the most beautiful countries in the world. I've had the pleasure of going to Portugal a few times, and I was in Porto this time last year actually, and it was fabulous. So my question to you is, I'm hearing whispers that the EA4SD are looking at bringing it out to Portugal. Can you confirm or deny these reports?
So we are working in trying to bring ESD to Portugal. It would be a very big thing for us, because it has been really good to know the community, to know you guys, and I think many others that we still don't know, because so far we have been connected to Europe and Brazil, and that I think it's our biggest force. Portugal is we can be the link between South America, North America, and Europe. So far we just have been in Europe and Brazil. We still haven't gone to North America, but the thing is that I really hope to bring you guys all here, because it's really one of the best countries in the world. And food is great. The weather is great. The people are very nice. The beer is always cold. So hopefully, I'm not sure if next year or maybe 2 years time, we can bring everyone here, but I would love to see that happen.
Well, if you can promise us a boat party on that river in Porto, then John and I will definitely be there.
I can try and do that, but we live in Lisbon. We have also a river, and it's wider than in Porto.
Okay.
So guaranteed both party, no problem. But here in Lisbon or in Porto, you will get party. That's no problem. No problem. What Portuguese like to do and are really good doing, it's partying.
Well, that's me sold.
Well, that's 2 tickets sold.
And I will keep John with me all time so that he won't get lost.
Daniel, don't make promises you cannot keep, okay? Because nobody can do that. Nobody.
Yeah,
can
that's
do
true. In Lithuania, I saw that it's not easy to keep John with us.
Yeah, we'll find out next week when we're in Manchester next week, so we'll see how that goes as well.
What about the rest of this year? Have you got any big plans coming up? Apart from the work at the university, is there any big sporting events you're looking forward to? Or have you any big trips coming up?
So me, I'm going to this October to Porto to try and be involved in an event that has many sports, combat sports, weightlifting sports. It's a multidisciplinary event. I'm going there working as with the mouth guards with X Impact to try and show the work and the development that we have, because it's not just the mouth guards for impact, it's also for the compression, to try and show a little bit of the work and to get in touch with the community, because I think it's very important, not just to be in the universities, in the clinics, to be with the community and showing them the work that we are doing and what they can get of the information. Besides that, we'll get to see in Düsseldorf. If everything goes okay, we'll meet there. Besides that, just the normal events that we do in rugby, preventions, mouth guards, the athletes that we see in our normal practice day. But I think the biggest event that we'll have will be in Düsseldorf. And
Yeah, I'm looking
And
forward.
looking forward.
the excitement's building for that as well. With, I mean, almost every single person we've spoken to in this podcast is going to that, so there's going to be a lot of big hitters there. But hopefully, it should be good fun with a really good few days to look forward to. But Daniel, listen, that was really interesting. I think there's a lot of similarities between what you guys are doing up there and what's happening here in the UK in terms of how we're trying to infiltrate the sports medicine team and be part of the team and trying to get involved with more and more sports. And the fact that you guys have set up the postgraduate program is fantastic. And it's good to see that you've got kind of 8 delegates on it at the moment. Hopefully you continue to build on that. And now with the podcast, it's actually helped me meet more and more people and actually get to them on a bit more personal level. I know John's met quite a lot of the people on the podcast already, so he tells me a lot of stories about when he meets them and whether he remembers them or not, or remembers the meetings or not. It's like a different thing.
Don't feel too bad about Edinburgh, Umar, because I thought Daniel was from Spain for a day and a half of the 2 days.
Oh, that's like calling a Scotsman an Englishman. That's not good. That is not good.
And the thing was, it was the first time that we met the Spanish team also, Maria.
That's right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was really nice to see that there is already a big community, and your program, your podcast has been wonderful. I have almost hear every single one of them. And it's something that is funny is that every person has a similarity in their journey. If it's about mouth guards or if it's sports or something, is about trying and give the better thing, the better information, the better mouth guard, the better treatment to the athletes. So the really thing is that I can take out of this experience that it's been wonderful is that we are a community that wants to go to the same place. And the different experience in Europe, in North America, South America, and I've been seen in India, the development there has been really amazing to see. I think it's Rena's, if I'm not mistaken, and I hope she will be in Düsseldorf because it would be a pleasure to meet her. So I think it's something that this community and your podcast has helped quite a lot to grow and to integrate each other in this kind of life that we want.
Yeah, it's been great. It is a great community, the sports dentistry community. Like I've said it to a number of people, but like you can go to all these different dentistry conferences, but I've always found at the sports dentistry conferences that everybody is very similar. They're of the same personalities and they're always big into their sports and they're always wanting their best for the athletes. And it has brought like a really nice community of dental professionals together.
Yeah. And that's what we want. We want to help each other. And I think it's the goal of this community is to try and help our colleagues and get help also because we don't know everything. And the development has been so big in 2 years, I imagine in 10 years time. So that's why we are here. And I really hope to get the conference next year with you guys here in Portugal. I'm sure it will be spectacular.
Yeah. You've got our votes anyway.
Yeah, definitely.
That's good. I wasn't. I for sure John would come, but Umar has been here so many times, so he knows how good this is.
Yeah. I very fond of a pasta del nata as well. You know,
Persona.
I don't have a sweet tooth, but pasta del nata, I can have plenty of those. They are fabulous.
So we have
Fabulous.
amounts of them everywhere. So don't worry.
Oh, I know. Don't worry, I know that.
And I've lived in Brazil, so in Brazil is a really nice place to live, but Portugal is Portugal.
Yeah,
Sounds
very
good.
good.
Sounds good.
Well, thanks very much for your time, Daniel. It's been great to have you on. I'm looking forward to catching up again in Dusseldorf.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Daniel.
Thank you very much. And if you need anything, just call me.
Good man.
Okay.
We are delighted to have Ionate as a sponsor for the Sports Dentistry podcast. Are you looking for a water bottle that's built to keep up with your active lifestyle? Look no further than Ionate, the totally leak-proof water bottles with triple lock technology to prevent spills no matter where you're headed. With a simple one-touch opening mechanism, you can sip on the go without hassle. Plus, Ionate's sleek, modern designs are not only functional but can be personalized just for you. Made from high-quality steel, these bottles are easy to clean and best of all, they're sustainable. From 320ml to 1200ml, Ionate has the perfect size for you, whether you're just out for a jog or going on a long hike. And it doesn't stop at water bottles. Ionate also has travel mugs and flasks to keep your drinks just right wherever you are. Ionate is the official water bottle supplier to the British and Irish Lions on their tour to Australia this summer, and are the official water bottle supplier to the NFL, so you know you're getting the best. I have been using their bottles for a long time now and cannot recommend them highly enough. So head over to www.ionate.co.uk to get your hands on the best bottles in the business, bar none. Now back to the pod.
So that was really interesting. I always forget the link. It takes me a wee while to catch on, but the strong link between Portugal and Brazil. It's only like in my head, it's like Europe, because we're sort of thinking about USA, but I suppose just that language brings them closer together. And then you got the Spanish with a lot of the rest of the South Americans. But I always forget how strong a link there is between Portugal and Brazil. It was really interesting to hear how Daniel had went after he qualified to head over to Brazil and work over there for a while.
Yeah, he did mention it a few times, didn't he? And I think that's a really cool link to have, going to Brazil and being able to take your expertise out there and learn from them, because you know, it's in Europe and in South America, things are obviously done very, very differently, and there's more than one way to skin a cat. So it was fair play to Daniel to go out there pretty early on after he'd done his dental technician degree and see how things were going there, and then to bring it back and to do what he's done now and creating the X-Impact mouth guards and the postgraduate course with the other guys. And it seems like the setup that they've got in that hospital looks really, really good. And I've seen quite a lot of social media activity from those guys in terms of what they're doing and how they've been running things and the structure of the program. And it looks great. And he obviously mentioned that Pete Fine was invited over for the opening, and we've spoken to Pete about it, and he was very impressed as well and thought it was a really good initiative. And it's somewhere where, like we've said to Rena before about trying to get over to Mumbai and seeing their facility there, it'd be quite good to see the facility in Portugal and kind of see how that compares to what we have over here.
Yeah, it was really interesting how they are so strong on trying to get the athletes into the clinic for their screening, and how they've been able to get clubs and stuff to pay for it, because we find that to be some of the biggest challenges that we face, is getting access to these players, getting the players and the athletes to value getting the dental screening done, and also then value it enough where somebody's paying for it, whether that's from the player or the club itself. So there are all the big challenges in sports dentistry and barriers that have to overcome. So it's interesting to hear how they've been able to create that mindset where they're getting these players from the top level of soccer in Portugal at club level to go in to their clinic in the university for that pre-season screening and how the clubs are backing that up and covering the cost.
Yeah, exactly. And the sheer number of players that they managed to get through the door is quite incredible. And we didn't go into a lot of detail about how they actually managed to do it. I know you said that the clubs would pay for it, but the logistics of having, 20, 25, 30 players coming in at one time and to be screened, I suppose it's not too dissimilar to, when if a player or a club have a number of players who need to get some sort of special investigation done, whether it's like a CT scan, MRI scan, or ultrasound or something like that. Do they take a group of players to the hospital and they pay the hospital or play practitioner the fee to do that? I just think if you're trying to do that over here, I just don't see. I think they would find it a bit more of a stumbling block or a roadblock to try and get everybody to the hospital or to the clinic. I find that doing the screening at the clubs, as long as you've got loops and a good light and a mic to dictate or something to write stuff down on, I think that is feasible. But like you said, you're just there to highlight, green, amber, and red who needs to be seen. So I do find that interesting how they managed to do that. I just don't know how that would work here. I find that would be a big stumbling block on a number of fronts. I'm not saying it can't happen, but what's your thoughts on it?
Well, there's a few things. First of all, it's the logistics on a number of fronts. One, the travel time. So where are these athletes based? Be interesting to see how long does it take them to get to the university? Are they based very close? Is their training ground based very close? Because that would be a barrier to say, not only take time out of your day, but you have to travel to us. So that travel time to and from where they have to go. And then also, if you're giving them the full checkup and doing the occlusal analysis like they spoke about, you would need to block maybe 30 minutes, the minimum, in your book. So how do you have the facilities then to see a whole squad in one go? We never really got into it really with Daniel, but to have multiple chairs going at the same time, do you know how long do you block off? If you block off a morning, say a 4-hour slot, how many athletes and players can you do a full examination on that? If it is half an hour, there's 8 per chair, so there must have multiple chairs going. Whereas if you're doing screening and you're doing it maybe like a 12-15 minute block for players for screening, you can very easily do that, a full squad on their ground in the mornings, and it's less logistical and operational effort to organise that. Do you know, I do think it'll be, until we have the value in sports dentistry from the club's perspective, it's going to be very difficult to replicate that where we are, I think. But maybe that's what we should be aiming. Maybe that's where we should be aiming for, is to get that. And I know in some of the soccer clubs in Brazil, they have dental clinics in the stadiums and in the training grounds. And maybe that's then where it was developed to be able to develop it. So they're not only looking after them, the top players and the senior players, but they're looking after the whole academy the whole way through. And that's giving them the volume of players and the communities around the stadium and stuff. They're looking after them as well. So that was maybe justifying having the dental facilities on site to be able then to do the full examinational process on site. So that may be how we do it, and that's a challenge too. There was a rumour that Chelsea at one stage did have a dental chair at their training ground at one stage, but at the latest I heard, it's sort of maybe gathering dust, or it's been moved.
If you think about the logistics of having a dental chair at a stadium, then you'd have to think about like autoclave, sterilization, and everything else that goes with it, and managing the book and materials going out of date and all this stuff. Because it depends what you're tailoring it to. Are you tailoring it to, if you have a chair in a stadium or a training ground, are you tailoring it to just the players' academy and the staff? Are you tailoring it to the players, their families and their greater families, and you're just only specifically, dealing with them? Because if you look at something like the Emirates, so the Emirates cabin crew have got their own dentists, but you're talking about, I don't know how many airline crews there are for Emirates, but you're looking after their families and you're looking after their relatives and all that sort of stuff as well. So there's an argument to say that obviously makes sense. But then
So they have their own dentist
they must have they've got a polyclinic. They must have polyclinics there, because I know there's been advertisements for dentists to work for the Emirates airline, and you're looking after the pilots,
Right.
you're looking after their families, you're looking after, the extended family as well. So that's something that could be done, but I think there wouldn't be enough in it. I think it would run at a loss, because I don't think it would be busy enough to keep it going, because I think most of us that are doing the kind of sports related dentistry, our day to day is clinical dentistry, whether that's in practice or whether that's in hospital teaching. And then the sports stuff is an adjunct or is an additional thing on top of that. That's not going to say in the future when your American football teams will have state of the art dental facilities in their training ground or in their ground, because if they've got a squad of 53, they've got, that's massive. And then you take into consideration their families and everybody else on top of that, then potentially it could run. I just don't see where you talked about it before, about talking about the value. I think getting us involved even remotely with the sports medical team for a lot of our colleagues is quite tricky at the minute. I think that's got to be our initial aim. But I think over time, with the value increases and then they start to get us involved more and more, then we shouldn't put a ceiling on it. We shouldn't say that it can't happen. But I just think we're a bit too far away from that at the moment. But if we're looking to the future and we're thinking, okay, how high is the ceiling? That's got to be right up there somewhere.
Yeah, I think it's got to be quite a broad range of services you're supplying. It's not just the sports dentistry specific to the elite players. You're looking after the academy. You're maybe, as you mentioned, maybe their families if they're based in that area, but also the sort of community outreach stuff that maybe the club will do. Like, so you can see players doing a lot of community outreach stuff to try to improve different areas and help the community. And maybe you're going into schools and giving oral health promotion as part of that role and different things like that. I think it would need to be built out. It just wouldn't be your typical normal general dentistry clinic just for athletes. I think it would have to be a model which covered lots of different areas to make it actually worthwhile to say that we have like dental facilities at this club. You could be going out and maybe doing children's days or out to schools and promoting stuff and things like that. So would maybe have to think around a business case about how it would work from a club perspective that way. But I don't think just for any of the sort of teams that we support, financially, it wouldn't make sense to have dental facilities on site. But again, maybe that's what we should be aiming for. Maybe we're thinking too small. Maybe we should be thinking more along them lines, or even do we look at placing in mobile dental units? Do you know, is that an option where we've got a mobile dental unit going in there to be able to provide these facilities? Do we have a sports dentistry bus, and then you rock up and you have your kit to do your full screening? It's not just a screening, your full examination. They'll have everything, and you rock up for a week and you get everybody done, and then you rock on to the next club and you maybe do everybody at the next club the following week. That could be a model that might work, but
yeah,
I don't think just looking at a normal general dental practice and picking it up and putting it in a club and trying to run off that model, I don't think there'll be the justification for that.
I think a mobile clinic actually would make sense, because you do that the Olympics and Paralympics and Commonwealth Games, you have pop-up mobile units, but I suppose it's trying to figure out what's the running cost of that, what level of dentistry can you actually do or facilitate in those sort of mobile units. And they must be, and obviously you've been to Australia and I've been there as well, and it's such a big place that when they go into the outback, they are just taking these mobile units and they set up shop and they do all the examinations and they do the treatments and in the outback on the people that live there. But again, it's that I can only assume that being like simple dentistry, they're not going to be doing like upper 5 to 5 veneer preps and sending it to lab and get them made. There'll be simple kind of extractions or hygiene, or I don't even know if they'd be doing fillings, because then where do you then look at the compressor and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, I think that type of is maybe a lot of maybe emergency and pain relief type treatment. I had an Aussie guy come into me when I was working out almost the outback. It was 8 hours from the coast, but it's not the true outback. And he came in. I was working in the hospital, but we were in a room in the hospital. There was a dental clinic, and I was working for the company in there. This guy came in and he had all these wee pieces of fishing wire hanging out of his mouth.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, can you help me? I can't get the fishing wire out of my mouth." It was like a fishing line. It was like, but it was like a real. I was like, so what happened? And he goes, "Oh, my tooth was killing me for ages. So I remember when I was younger that my mum tied like a piece of string around my tooth and put it on the doorknob and closed the door and my tooth came out. So I thought I would just do it, but he was trying to do it with an upper six. Oh, we know, like upper sixes are like one of the most difficult, if not the most difficult tooth to take out. And he must have wrapped this fishing wire around about 20 times, and the fishing wire snapped and it was stuck all in his gum. And I was trying to unravel this fishing wire around his tooth. It was one of the strangest experiences.
Can you imagine if he'd actually managed to get the tooth out of the bout? He would deserve a pat on the back.
Yeah. Oh, that was. It still sticks in my mind. Him coming in and the fishing wire hanging out of the side of his lip. I was like,
but then when you're in the outback or when you're in a place where there's no dental facility nearby, there's a lot of people who do, aid and dental aid, and they go away to places like Rwanda or Africa, and they go and they provide a service for whatever, and people do that on elective, and they go away to places that are less fortunate than us, and they get to do all sorts of amazing dentistry to help people who otherwise most of the year don't have anybody there to go to, and that's the great thing about being in dentistry, is that we're able to help people who are suffering, and we're able to get them out of pain, and we're able to improve their quality of life. And that's not something that you kind of see day to day. And when you see so many patients all the time, it's kind of sometimes hard to appreciate the good that you do, because you're always just trying your best, and you're trying to just make sure that what you're doing and is going to work, because like you say, sometimes it can work for one person, it doesn't work for the second person, and you can have a upper six, which is an easy extraction, and the next patient the exact same thing, and you're there for an hour trying to section it and take the curvy roots out and using all sorts of fancy gadgets to do that. So it is a really difficult career to have, and I think trying to simplify it when it comes to looking at athletes and being able to deal with athletes, and in simplifying it, I don't mean just from a dental assessment point of view, but also being able to actually physically see the patient, whether that's them coming to see you or you go to see them. And like you said, they're logistically, how much time do they have to take out of their day to come and see you? But then it is healthcare, and we're trying to help improve not just their general health, but their oral health, and hopefully their performance to a degree, or certainly try and minimize their effect on their performance.
Yeah, definitely. And that's what a lot of reads about it is, to help people. Had a really nice moment yesterday with a patient. I've had a really busy week this week just because I was off there for 2 weeks. I've had a really busy week and getting quite stressed because I've had no lunch. I'm not very good when I'm hungry, to be honest. So yesterday I had a few patients that needed a little bit of extra time and stuff yesterday. And one patient was just in for a whitening review near the end of the day, and I was just looking at it to say, right, that's going to only take me a few minutes. That's going to be able to catch up here. And you kind of forget, because you're just sometimes you're constantly chasing the clock, and I don't like waiting when I go for appointments, so I hate keeping patients waiting as well. And the patient just came in for a whitening review, and she came in about 6 months ago, and she'd been really nervous, and she just wanted to get her teeth healthier. Just did a few cleans, she had a few fractured teeth, and we got some onlays and stuff on that, and tidied everything up and built up her confidence. So I'd almost forgot about her, but she had been away on holidays, and the whitening review was meant to happen a month ago. So she came in and she was smiling. It's like, oh, the teeth are really whitened up and all. And she was explaining how she'd been away on holidays and she hadn't been able to use all the gel. And I was like, right, sure, finish the gel that you have, and then we'll see if you need any extra, or we can just go into the top up sort of protocol. And then just as she's leaving, she goes, it's been really, I goes, like, you can really notice the difference. So it's coming on well. She goes, yeah, it's been absolutely fantastic. Like I've been able to smile. I've never been able to smile, and she just gave me a big hug out of nowhere, and like because it was just like, oh, she was just really emotional, and then she just walked to the desk and booked next appointment, and it was just a small moment in my really busy day that brought me back down to say, well, it's one of the reasons why we do it is how we have that positive impact on people's lives, and sometimes we don't know. We don't know how much is impacting people, and that's the same with athletes. A lot of athletes will try to minimize what's going on because they don't want to look to have like they have any weaknesses and stuff, but we can have them really positive impacts on athletes.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you don't go searching for comments like that or things like that to happen. But when they do happen, it is quite nice because then it actually gives you a sense of you're doing the right things. So I think that's a valid point that you make in terms of you just don't know how you're going to impact someone's life, but hopefully majority of the time it's for the good, and you see that, and that's why we do certainly sports dentistry is if we can help athletes perform to the best of their abilities, and they can look back and say, actually, that clinician helped me, whether it's a dentist, whether it's a physiotherapist, whether it's nutritionist, whatever. As long as that clinician helped me, that feels nice. It's nice to hear nice things.
Yeah, it's good. And it's always a good rule that treated like a family member. I used to say to me in university, and you always remembered, like if it's your daughter, or if you don't have a daughter, if your sister, your mother. I can't really use the brother, but because of two brothers, I like one of them. I don't like the other one. So I've used the brother rule. I could say I'd use the brother rule. It just depends which brother I'm talking about and how you're going to get treated. So I can't use the brother rule. I'll have to use a different one.
You can give the patient options. You can say heads or tails,
right.
Brother or bad.
Yeah,
this is how I'm going to.
Yeah. Cool. So it's been great to catch up with Mars. Took us a few weeks. Different types of holidays. You're on holiday, I was on holiday. I didn't realize I was in Lake Como for the brother that I like's wedding. We made a bit of a family holiday out of it, and I didn't realize just how remote of an area it is. No taxi ranks. Wi-Fi wasn't great in anywhere we stayed, but it was nice to come back to like a wee bit of a simple life for a few weeks. And it's a lovely part of the world. The lake's nice. Once you get your bearings about it, it was quite interesting. The train line has stopped, and the train's really easy to get around the wee towns, but it's been stopped for upgrades for the Winter Olympics that are coming up in the new year. So that was interesting as well. So it'd be quite nice to go back sometime when the train's back functional and a venture around there.
There must be something quite nice about not being contactable as well, and living and being somewhere where you could just actually appreciate where you were, because that's what I felt when we went to that holiday home in South of Tarragona, where it was just didn't really know anybody who spoke English, and it was just you and your family, and you were just cutting about doing things that you take for granted here, because you can easily just ask somebody like, oh, where's the nearest shop, or where's the nearest this, or for example, when we were there, everybody was told to get out the water at the beach. Everybody was told to get out. We're like, what's going on? Get out. Went to go and speak to the lifeguard. The lifeguard was like, yeah, me no English. I'm like, oh God. So we're trying to ask the people around there, and the French were like, I don't speak English, and some of the Spanish, we don't speak English. So we were like, and my daughter wanted to stay in the water. I was like, you need to come out. Everybody's coming out this beach, this little cove. Everybody's coming out. But anyway, we ended up having to phone my wife's brother and be like, can you just check the news and see what's happening? But so apparently there'd been some sort of leakage or spillage in a town nearby, and they weren't sure if it was going to be harmful to human health. So then all the coves around that area, the lifeguards have been told, get everybody out the water, because we don't know whether contamination is an issue. But then we only knew that because we ended up having to phone my wife's brother in Barcelona to be like, can you check the news, then tell us what's going on.
I did think you were going to say a shark there. It was a 50. I was either going to be jellyfish or shark in my head there. But
well, there's definitely no sharks there, thankfully. Otherwise, my daughter would never get in the water. But I mean, like you say, it's something quite nice about that, and just to switch off and be away. And I did try to badger you to see if we could get some pause, but actually the couple of weeks off has been quite good for both of us. I think we both needed it. So, but it'll be kind of full steam ahead now with UK Sports Dentistry next Friday.
Yeah.
Hopefully get another wee pod out before then, and then we'll we'll reconvene after that. But yeah, excitement is
Yeah.
building.
Next Friday would be great because you have these wee breaks, and then when you get a conference like that and everybody gets together and you start talking about the sports dentistry, it just re-energizes you and gets you going again and gets you buzzed up again. It's a perfect time of year as well, with all the sports starting and all, starting to get more involved with the teams that we support. So really looking forward to next week.
Yeah,
We'll get back on the swing of the pods.
And what have we got?
We've got the cricket that's going to get rained off.
No. We've got the merch.
Oh, we've got the merch. Yes. Check out the merch.
We've got the merch.
Exclusive reveal of the Sports Dentistry podcast merch at the conference next week.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll still have my tartan trousers on, but I'll try and see what I could do top half.
Brilliant. Great catching up, Umar.
Very good, mate. Very good.
We'll go back in the swing of things with the pods, so we're ready to go for another week.
Absolutely, mate. Right. I will chat to you very soon, my friend.
Chat to you soon.